Welcome to the Boar's coverage of the 2026 SU Student Officer elections, where we are offering all candidates for full-time officer positions an interview with our team ahead of Big Decision Night. I'm Hannah Guthrie, one of the Boar's many news deputy editors, and today I'll be interviewing you, Ben, for the position of VP Societies. Welcome, Ben. It's nice to meet you. The first question is, why did you decide to run for this position?
So I've had a bunch of different experience sort of working around the SU. As I said in my manifesto, I was a democracy assistant last year, so I worked quite heavily on the elections in that sense. I've also been involved with them through media societies as well, and loads of different societies as well, just more generally. And really, I just, the experience that I gained from doing all of these different things made me feel as though I could be someone who, really brings in change and makes sure that the system runs, as smoothly as kind of possible, I suppose. So it was more about kind of getting to use what I'd learned, I suppose, and getting to kind of make change that I thought would be beneficial based on all the different things that I've done over the past few years. Yeah.
Okay, great. My next question is, what's your experience with societies at Warwick?
So I've got a few different experiences. So I've been on exec teams. I was head of arts at Raw, the student radio station, last year. It will have been, yeah. And then I also worked as social media manager at Warwick Improv Society as well. So I've got experience, being on exec teams in that sense. And as part of those, I was really sort of heavily involved with liaising with other societies, with organising events, making posts. So I know kind of everything that a society does and how much effort it all is as well. And then kind of on the other side of that as well, I've also been just involved as a member in societies as well. So I've done stuff with MTW, Musical Theatre, NINSOC, the Boar as well. So I've kind of seen a bit of everything, I suppose, is probably the best way to put it. And so I know what it's like to be a member of a society, and maybe what from their position might need changing or adapting, or how we can do things better. But then on top of that, as an exec member as well, just knowing, getting to liaise with the SU, and thinking, these things might need improvement, or maybe we can streamline this, and that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that all sounds great. My next question is, we have over 250 societies at Warwick. How, as VP societies, would you make sure that everyone feels welcome at one or several of these societies, regardless of their background? And how will you foster a sense of inclusion in societies at Warwick?
Awesome. So community is one of the big sort of aspects of my manifesto that I really wanted to emphasize, because I think personally, at least, especially for me, but I think generally, societies are probably one of the most important things that you can do at Warwick. They're where you can find some of your passions. I know that's the case for me. I know going into my degree, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and now thanks to societies, I do know what I want to do for a living. And so I think they're really, really important. And I think part of what makes them so important is the sense of community and importance that brings to lots of people. So one of the main things that I want to do is obviously work more closely with lots of different societies, and work to kind of make new events, be that, collaborating between societies and the SU in things like advertising. Like I know in the past there's been cases of societies collaborating with SU outlets to do like special drinks and that sort of stuff. I want to do sort of more of that, and work on the relationship between societies and the SU, but also the relationship between societies themselves, and how they sort of interact and collaborate and all those sorts of things. Maybe to do different, for example, like cultural societies doing more cultural events based on events in the calendar and that sort of stuff. And so there's so many different things that I kind of want to work on to make sure that there's a real community there. And also, I think, you mentioned inclusion. One of the most important things I think about societies is that they're really welcoming and they kind of let anyone in. And so, aside from the kind of points that I want to make about me wanting to instigate a sort of fairer funding system, so that societies are more fairly balanced, I suppose. Also, one of the main things that I want to do is introduce something that I call a Stamp Your Sock program. And it's basically this idea of a stamp program that would be used in Freshers Week. And even beyond, if it's successful in there, kind of like as a trial test, I suppose, to basically encourage freshers to join new societies that they might not have initially thought of, when they came to Warwick. Something that they might look at once in the societies fair and think, maybe that's not for me on first glance, but then they might try it, go to it, try it, and think, this is really fun. Because I think one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that societies stay healthy, and make sure that they have a constant stream of new members, because that's what builds that community. And so I think one of the most important things that I would do is definitely implementing a system like that, so that people can really experience kind of everything that the society's community has to offer at Warwick, and making sure that we keep getting new groups of people coming in every single year.
Great, thank you. Kind of leading on from that, the Society's Federation membership fee fell for the second time in a row this year, from £16 to £12 for undergraduates. However, some students will still feel priced out of societies by this fee, especially when you add on the cost of individual society events. How will you continue to help people feel like they're not being priced out of societies?
Yeah. So affordability is another really key point in my manifesto. One of the main things that I want to advocate for, it's right at the top of the list, is looking at phasing out of the SOCS Federation fee. It's something that different SUs across the country do and have done, and it's worked really well for them. So I would, of course, look to reduce it even more where possible. And look at potentially phasing into a different sort of funding system, one that puts less pressure on societies and less pressure on its members to pay into that grant as you will, but also looking at expanding and really sort of making clear the processes for Federation fee exempt societies. So making sure that people know what a Fed exempt society is, and making sure that it is essentially free to join at point of access. Because I think those are some of the most important societies, because they're societies that are inherently about inclusion and about making people feel like part of a community in Warwick. But then also one of the other things that I really want to implement, that I feel would help make societies a lot more affordable, is subsidising transport to and fro events and competitions. So like if you have an awards ceremony as a society, you've done amazing work, as lots of societies do, and you've won an award for it, you deserve to go and collect that award in person, and it shouldn't be as much of a strain on your finances as it often is these days, especially with how much UK trains cost. And so what I want to do is work on the SU really helping those people, and making sure that they can go to their competitions, that they can go compete and win awards and do all the different amazing things that societies do every single day, and making sure that they're not priced out. Because I think, the cost of living, it's still very much an active thing. And it is affecting students, be that through rent, through food, and societies naturally might fall to the bottom of that priority list because people have to eat. And so I think it's really important that we do what we can to make sure that people are able to partake in societies, because as I said, they're one of the most important things you can do.
Great. My final question is about the Warwick Conservatives scandal. That after this, the SU enforced mandatory anti-Semitism training for all club members, as well as Islamophobia training for exec members. Do you think that all clubs should be forced to do more in terms of educating their exec members so that incidents like this do not happen again?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I, like many other people, saw what happened over the summer break, I think. And it was shocking. It was a really awful situation, and we need to make sure that it never happens again. And so one of the main things that I want to do on my manifesto is reform and review exec training. So that makes it more accessible, more informative, but also more engaging as well. And so that's definitely something that I'd be looking to include as part of kind of that reform that I want to bring in, because I think it's something that's really important. People can't go to a society and feel like they're not wanted, and feel like they might be prejudiced for speaking their mind or their views or something like that. And so, yeah, it's definitely an issue that does need addressing. And I think that probably the best way to do it is by, implementing training and making sure people know what they're saying, and making sure that people know the implications of it. And then that means that societies generally are just really inclusive, and they're really welcoming, which is exactly what we want them to be. Because at the end of the day, they're not meant to be these awful places, where rumors get spread and that sort of stuff. They're meant to be kind of nice groups of people who meet up with similar interests to do things that they enjoy. And yeah, and I think that that's one of the best things we can do to really change that as well. Yeah.